What if I told you that ancient desert engineers cooled their dwellings without a single kilowatt of electricity? Are you ready to learn the truth about structures that surpassed modern tents made of high-tech materials in every aspect of staying cool? For centuries, the indigenous peoples of the harsh southwestern deserts honed the art of architectural survival under the scorching sun. Their traditional dome-shaped shelters functioned as natural air conditioners, reflecting the heat and directing airflow. Every detail of these structures was designed with a deep understanding of the laws of physics and the properties of local plants. Watch the video to the end, and you'll learn how Apache architecture used aerodynamics to create the perfect microclimate in the midst of the scorching sands. Are you ready for the shocking truth about the architectural prowess of the desert's indigenous peoples? For many decades, it was believed that their structures were nothing more than simple huts made of branches and leaves. However, a detailed study of these structures reveals the presence of highly complex engineering calculations and an understanding of thermodynamics. The traditional dwelling, known as a wickiup, was built according to strict principles of aerodynamics and heat transfer. The builders took every detail into account, from soil density to the angle of the sun's rays. This approach allowed them to create a stable, cool zone inside the dome, even during the most unbearable hours of the day. The construction process began with a thorough analysis of the terrain and wind patterns in a specific canyon. Experienced craftsmen could unerringly determine the direction of prevailing air currents by the shape of dried-up shrubs. The chosen site had to ensure maximum airflow around the structure from all sides, without creating stagnant zones. Small hills, or the edges of plateaus, where air masses were constantly in motion, were considered ideal locations. Low-lying areas and deep ravines were strictly avoided due to the risk of stagnant, scorching air accumulating. The proper placement of the foundation ensured the uninterrupted operation of the natural cooling system throughout the day. The outer shell served as a multi-layered thermal shield, reflecting most of the solar radiation back into space. To create it, thick bundles of long stalks, dry leaves, and stiff desert grasses were used. The material was laid from the bottom up in a roof tile pattern, creating a dense and impermeable covering. The outer layer of light-colored dried grass acted as a powerful reflector of the sun's thermal energy. The inner layers, made of denser branches, formed an air gap that served as an excellent insulator. This multi-layered system completely blocked the penetration of scorching air into the cool interior. An important feature of the design was its ability to allow fresh breezes to pass through. The covering was not completely airtight. It consisted of thousands of microscopic channels between the grass stalks. As hot air passed through these natural filters, it lost its destructive force and cooled slightly. The density of the thatching was adjusted depending on the current season and expected harsh weather conditions. During the hottest months, the covering was made looser to enhance the constant circulation of refreshing breezes. This design radically distinguishes ancient shelters from modern tents made of solid, synthetic, impermeable fabrics. Each such structure was a unique masterpiece of engineering, created without blueprints or complex industrial tools. The builders relied on the centuries-old experience of their ancestors, carefully passed down from generation to generation. They knew how to interpret complex terrain and use its features to create reliable shelter. Such a deep understanding of natural processes inspires genuine admiration even among modern experts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about these survival techniques? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel. The secret one, for which people pay thousands, lies in properly interacting with the Earth's surface. The ideal shelter was never built on bare rock or scorching, loose sand. Desert engineers always sought out locations with dense soil, capable of retaining the natural coolness of the Earth's depths. Before beginning to erect the frame, the site was thoroughly cleared of the top layer of scorching dust and small stones. Builders dug the floor of the dwelling several tens of centimeters deeper to reach the cooler, deeper layers. This simple action instantly lowered the base temperature inside the future structure by several degrees. The location of the shelter's entrance also followed strict rules of aerodynamics and protection from solar radiation. The doorway was always oriented in the direction opposite to the strongest and driest winds. This prevented dust columns from entering the dwelling during sudden daytime squalls. At the same time, the sun's path across the sky, from sunrise to sunset, was carefully taken into account. The entrance was designed so that direct, scorching rays would never penetrate deep into the cool interior. Most often, the opening formed a small, curved vestibule or was covered with a screen of flexible branches. Artificial shade was often created around the shelter, using additional canopies made of dry, stiff grasses. These lightweight structures absorb the first and most intense impact of solar radiation. A buffer layer of relatively cool, fresh air formed between the outer canopy and the main dome. Thanks to this protection, the outer shell of the dwelling heated up significantly less, preserving its valuable insulating properties. This approach resembles modern ventilated facade technologies used in cutting-edge green construction. The ingenuity of ancient craftsmen allowed them to create multi-layered systems of protection against the heat. The choice of vegetation for creating shade depended on the specific characteristics of the landscape and locally available resources. Dense thickets of tough shrubs served as an excellent barrier against direct sunlight and hot, dry winds. Builders often integrated their dwellings directly into natural niches beneath the canopies of rare spreading trees. This allowed them to conserve building materials and make the most of the protective properties of the harsh environment. The interweaving of living branches with elements of a wooden frame made the structure incredibly stable and durable. This symbiosis of architecture and nature ensured optimal conditions for maintaining a comfortable temperature inside the shelter. The interior space of the dwelling was organized in accordance with the laws of air circulation and basic ergonomics. In the center of the shelter, there was often a small recess for building a fire on cold, clear nights. Around this central element, an open area was created that did not obstruct the flow of life-sustaining air currents. Resting areas were always arranged along curved walls, on a small, comfortable raised platform above the floor. This allowed occupants to remain in a zone where a light, fresh, and cool breeze constantly circulated. Proper layout prevented the formation of stagnant zones and ensured uniform cooling of the entire interior volume. The skill with which the structure was integrated into the surrounding terrain reached incredible heights of practicality and absolute functionality. Knowledge of these principles was passed down exclusively through practical experience and many years of careful observation. No modern textbook can replace the deep understanding of nature possessed by indigenous peoples. Do you think modern engineers could design such a complex cooling system without computer modeling? In the next chapter, you'll learn exactly which unique plants were used to create an impenetrable thermal shield. An experiment that didn't go according to plan would have demonstrated to modern researchers the full power of ancient technologies. Creating a heat-protective layer for a dwelling required a deep understanding of the properties of flora and the laws of botany. Ordinary leaves and thin branches would instantly dry out in the sun, turning into brittle and utterly useless dust. Therefore, builders used only specific types of hardy plants resistant to extreme temperatures. The primary building material consisted of long, sturdy leaves from various species of local desert yucca. This plant possessed incredible density and the ability to retain its insulating properties even after drying out. Harvesting the material was a carefully calibrated process designed to avoid disrupting the fragile ecosystem of the arid region. The plants were never pulled up by the roots to ensure their continued growth and rapid regrowth. Covering a single shelter required enormous quantities of plant material, gathered from different parts of the rocky canyon. Cut leaves and bundles of tough grass were laid out in the sun for mandatory preliminary drying. This procedure removed excess moisture from the material and prevented rotting inside the finished dome structure. Properly prepared vegetation became exceptionally durable and could provide protection for many long, sweltering months. The light color of the grass, dried under the scorching sun, served a vital function as a powerful optical reflector. Dark materials quickly absorb light and convert it into excessive and unwanted thermal energy. The pale yellow stems of desert plants acted as a giant mirror, reflecting radiation back into the sky. This simple physical principle made it possible to reduce the thermal load on the wooden frame by several times. Modern equipment manufacturers have only recently begun to widely adopt similar light-colored, reflective high-tech coatings. Ancient builders had been using this optical effect for hundreds of years with flawless, absolute efficiency. Depending on the specific region and elevation above sea level, the composition of materials could vary significantly. In higher altitude areas, tree bark and thick bundles of dry, sturdy seaweed were widely used. The bark was laid in large pieces, creating a rigid and reliable shield against the sun and gusty winds. This readily available material possessed excellent thermal insulation properties and a pleasant, tangy scent of coniferous resin. The variety of materials used demonstrates the indigenous people's incredible ability to adapt to any harsh conditions. They brilliantly utilized everything that the barren nature of the surrounding silent deserts had to offer. During operation, the shelter's outer shell required constant attention and regular minor repairs. Strong winds tore at the dried leaves, disrupting the integrity of the carefully laid protective layer of vegetation. The builders regularly added new bundles of grass to the damaged areas, restoring the valuable thermal insulation layer. This work required precision to avoid disrupting the aerodynamic shape of the original smooth and even dome. Constant renewal of the material made it possible to maintain an ideal microclimate inside the dwelling throughout the entire calendar year. This flexibility of the structure set it apart from modern, static, and non-repairable synthetic store-bought tents. Studying these construction techniques opens up entirely new horizons in understanding the principles of sustainable architecture. We can clearly see how the proper use of local renewable resources makes it possible to create true masterpieces of climate control. Ancient craftsmen convincingly demonstrated that comfort is entirely possible without destroying nature or relying on complex technological processes. Their legacy deserves in-depth study and integration into modern concepts of energy-efficient construction of unique buildings. Please like this video if you too are amazed by the engineering genius of the indigenous peoples of North America. Your support really helps us create more interesting content about the history of unique, forgotten architectural solutions. What large companies keep hidden has long been known to the inhabitants of the continent's scorching deserts. The secret to ideal ventilation lay not only in the presence of an exhaust vent, but also in the physics of airflow. Engineers of the past intuitively understood a complex principle that modern science refers to as the well-known Bernoulli effect. The essence of this principle was that the wind speed above the dome is always higher than at the surface of flat ground. The fast-moving airflow above the upper opening of the shelter created a zone of stable, artificially reduced pressure. This zone functioned like a giant invisible pump, powerfully drawing hot air from inside the dwelling to the outside. The lower ventilation gaps, located right at ground level, played an equally important role in this system. It was through these gaps that fresh and relatively cool air from the surrounding scorching environment entered the dome. These gaps were often covered with loose tufts of grass, which served the complex function of natural air filters. They trapped fine sand and dust, allowing a clean airflow to penetrate unimpeded into the secure shelter. The area of the lower openings was always strictly proportional to the area of the upper vent to maintain a perfect balance. The slightest disruption of this ratio could instantly halt the life-saving circulation of air currents. The distribution of air currents inside the dwelling resembled the well-oiled mechanism of a complex, expensive climate control system. A fresh breeze, entering through the lower slits, spread smoothly across the cool earthen floor of the entire large room. As the air warmed from human bodies, it began to rise slowly and steadily high into the air. This natural convection created a constant and very gentle movement of the air. Without strong, uncomfortable drafts, people inside felt only a pleasant coolness, carrying away the excess of accumulated, exhausting heat. This gentle ventilation reliably protected the body from overheating in the dry and unforgiving climate. During periods of complete calm, when the desert wind died down, the system continued to function flawlessly. The scorching outer shell of the dome heated the surrounding layers of air, causing them to rise rapidly. This upward external heat flow created a weak but steady draft inside the ventilation opening, directly on the roof. Thus, even in the calmest weather, the process of natural air renewal was maintained inside the shelter. The remarkable property of this thermodynamic natural pump ensured a constant level of comfort under any harsh weather conditions. Nature itself set the cooling mechanism in motion, blindly obeying the flawless and precise physical laws of the vast universe. Adjusting the ventilation system was an ongoing process that required the utmost attention from the inhabitants of this spacious dwelling. Depending on the time of day and the sun's position, some of the lower vents could be quickly opened or closed. In the morning, when the stony ground still retained the coolness of the night, the vents were opened wide for intense, refreshing ventilation. During the midday hours of intense heat, ventilation was kept to a minimum to prevent the scorching, dusty air from entering. In the evening, the system would open again, allowing a fresh breeze to displace the unbearable, stifling heat that had built up during the day. Manually controlling the microclimate required a keen sense of the surrounding nature and a deep understanding of its hidden rhythms. The genius of this ventilation system lies in its complete independence from any artificial sources of precious energy. It functions solely through its carefully calibrated form, the right materials, and a precise understanding of the immutable laws of classical physics. This approach demonstrates the highest degree of respect for nature and the ability to harness its immense hidden powers. Isn't it amazing how centuries of experience have made it possible to create such a perfect mechanism for effective passive cooling? In the next chapter, you'll learn why modern technologies often fall short of these ancient, time-tested natural methods. Are you ready to compare camping tents with the dwellings of the great warriors of the scorching wasteland? A comparison of traditional shelters with modern camping tents clearly demonstrates the enormous difference in approaches to comfort. Tents are usually made from synthetic fabrics, such as nylon or polyester, which are highly waterproof. These materials create a completely sealed, enclosed dome that heats up instantly under the direct rays of the scorching sun. Inside a closed tent, the temperature can exceed the outside temperature by several dozen degrees, a level that is unbearable and agonizing for humans. The air becomes humid from breathing, creating a dangerous greenhouse effect in a confined, closed, artificial space. Under such conditions, staying inside the shelter during the day poses a serious threat to one's well-being and sanity. The problem of condensation in modern tents is one of the most pressing and difficult engineering challenges. Moisture released by the body condenses on the inner walls of the tent, creating an unpleasant dampness and causing discomfort. In traditional shelters, this physical process is prevented thanks to the unique properties of the natural fibers used. Dry grass and branches possess excellent hygroscopicity, easily absorbing excess moisture from the surrounding stagnant warm air. The absorbed moisture then slowly evaporates outward under the constant influence of the hot, desert winds blowing from outside. Inside the spacious dome, an optimal humidity level is always maintained without the formation of cold droplets on the curved ceiling. Professional thermal imaging studies reveal a dramatic difference in temperature distribution between two popular types of temporary shelters. An image of a modern nylon tent in the desert shows a bright red spot radiating intense heat in all directions. A thermal imager records the surface temperature of the material, which can reach incredibly high values on a typical sunny day. An image of a traditional plant-based dome appears as a dark, cool spot against the backdrop of glowing, scorching dry sand. The outer layer of stiff grass effectively dissipates energy, preventing it from concentrating on the surface of the ancient structure. This visualization serves as the best irrefutable proof of the superiority of ancient passive technologies over modern lightweight artificial materials. The crucial environmental aspect of construction must also not be overlooked in an objective analysis of ancient, unique technologies. The production of any synthetic materials requires energy and causes significant harm to the fragile biosphere. Traditional dwellings consist entirely of renewable, clean components that decompose quickly and leave no trace after prolonged use. Over time, an abandoned dwelling simply turns into natural, nutrient-rich compost, enriching the poor soil of the deep, rocky canyon. This completely waste-free, eco-friendly production cycle demonstrates exemplary respect for the harsh ecosystem of the entire arid southwestern region. Ancient builders left no non-biodegradable waste behind, living in complete and unconditional harmony with the vast world around them. An analysis of the known facts leads to an unambiguous, logical conclusion regarding the engineering value of these traditional, bold architectural solutions. Modern builders have much to learn by studying the fundamental physical principles underlying the operation of these ingeniously simple, plant-based functional domes. Attempts to conquer nature using solid, synthetic, impermeable barriers often prove less effective than competent, conscious cooperation. The use of local materials opens up new avenues for creating truly comfortable and safe modern camping gear. Ancient, valuable knowledge has not become obsolete. It is simply waiting patiently for the moment when modern, ambitious science will be able to apply it correctly. The hidden code that changes everything lies in the very approach to finding high-quality building materials. Indigenous peoples never viewed the surrounding desert as an empty, lifeless, and utterly hostile, endless wasteland devoid of resources. To them, it was a vast, bountiful storehouse of useful building materials, scattered across the landscape, all the way to the farthest horizon. The ability to find the right sturdy tree, or the right type of grass was considered an essential basic skill for survival in a harsh, unforgiving climate. Each plant was carefully examined for its flexibility, strength, and ability to withstand extreme temperature fluctuations. Craftsmen might spend weeks exploring the surroundings before embarking on a large-scale gathering of materials for a future, durable dwelling. Only natural ropes, skillfully crafted from the strong fibers of local plants, were used to bind all the structural elements together. The painstaking process of creating such ropes was long and labor-intensive, requiring boundless patience and remarkable dexterity. The long, narrow leaves of the yucca were smashed with smooth stones to easily separate the tough pulp from the strong, elastic inner fibers. The purified precious fibers were twisted together to form incredibly strong, reliable cords of various desired thicknesses and lengths. These natural cords did not stretch at all over time and did not dry out in the hot, dry desert climate. They firmly secured the joints of the wooden frame, transforming scattered branches into a resilient and indestructible architectural monolith. Particular attention was always paid to sourcing high-quality materials for creating a cool earthen floor and a heat-insulating foundation encasement. The soil had to be sufficiently dense so as not to create dust at the slightest breeze inside an enclosed space. Clay from dried-up shallow bodies of water was often used with great success. It was crushed with stones and mixed with scarce water. The resulting thick mass was tightly and methodically tamped down with feet, creating a smooth surface that was incredibly pleasant for tired bare feet. The clay floor possessed exceptional thermal capacity, acting as a massive natural reservoir of the long-awaited and refreshing nighttime coolness. Such large-scale preparation took several days, but the final result fully justified the enormous physical effort expended. Transporting heavy wooden logs to the construction site was often carried out by the community without the use of wheeled vehicles. Long tree trunks were carried on the shoulders, with the weight skillfully distributed among several strong and highly resilient men. Bundles of tough grass and bark were tied into bales, which were dragged along the ground on special, homemade wide wooden skids. The coordinated work of a well-organized group made it possible to quickly and efficiently deliver all components to a pre-selected level site. This process greatly strengthened the unspoken social bonds within the tribe and taught young people the skills of effective teamwork. Building a shelter always became an important and joyful communal event, uniting people around the primary goal of successful survival. The ability to erect a reliable and cool shelter from stones and dry branches is the highest manifestation of human intelligence. These methods prove that comfortable and successful survival does not require high-tech, massive factories or complex, modern industrial machinery. All that is needed is a deep, thoughtful understanding of the physics of these processes and a respectful, sincere attitude toward the resources of the sparse surrounding environment. Have you ever tried to build a sturdy shelter using only what you could find in a wild, remote forest? In the next chapter, you'll learn how this man-made architectural marvel adapted to changes in the weather over the course of a single day. Are you ready to delve into the intricacies of microclimate control without buttons or modern remote controls? Controlling the microclimate inside a traditional shelter was a dynamic process that required constant, close attention to changes in the surrounding weather. Since ancient times, the desert has been known for its sudden and extreme temperature swings over the course of a single short, intense day. During the day, the scorching sun heats the rocks to incredible temperatures, while at night, the dry air can quickly cool down to biting frosts. The architectural design was specifically engineered to respond flexibly and instantly to these extreme climatic swings. The dwellers skillfully employed various strategies to stay cool during the day and retain precious warmth during the deep, cold nights. This transformed a simple, passive shelter into an interactive, reliable system guided by human ingenuity and experience. The cool morning hours were the time for maximum cross-ventilation and for preparing the shelter for the inevitable daytime heat that was approaching. As soon as the bright sun appeared above the horizon, the lower ventilation openings were opened to their maximum possible width. The fresh and still very cold morning wind blew unimpeded through the entire vast interior space of the woven dome. This procedure allowed cool air to be reliably stored deep within the thick, compact earthen floor and cooled the heated wooden frame of the structure. At the same time, the upper vent was opened wide, providing a powerful natural draft to completely renew the stagnant air. Thorough ventilation created a reliable, invisible thermal buffer for the next few difficult, sweltering hours. In the event of sudden, powerful sandstorms, which frequently occur on the open plains, the shelter transformed into an airtight protective capsule. All narrow ventilation gaps were tightly plugged with armfuls of grass, and the entrance was sealed with a heavy, thick hide or a woven wooden door. The streamlined, hemispherical shape of the structure allowed the destructive gale-force winds to sweep past easily, without causing any damage to the main frame. The thick, multi-layered grass cladding reliably trapped the finest airborne dust and sand, preventing them from entering the clean, habitable interior space. People could safely ride out the raging storm in complete, comfortable isolation, hearing only the strong howling of the wind outside the sturdy walls. The structure demonstrated remarkable mechanical stability and the ability to steadfastly withstand the most aggressive manifestations of wild, hostile nature. Managing natural light inside the dome was also an important and integral part of maintaining a comfortable overall microclimate. The density of the vegetated outer covering was finely adjusted to allow only soft, highly diffused, and safe light to enter. Direct, intense sunlight was strictly excluded, as it inevitably carried destructive and dangerous concentrated heat. The semi-darkness greatly helped the eyes rest from the blinding glare of the scorching desert and reduced the overall fatigue of the exhausted human body. In cases of urgent need for light, part of the grass was temporarily pushed aside, forming a small, narrow, improvised side window. The subtle interplay of light and shadow created a calm and relaxing atmosphere of peace and long-awaited safety within the secure shelter. Repairs and necessary updates to the covering were carried out very regularly to prevent a critical decline in the effectiveness of the thermal insulation layer. The inhabitants constantly monitored the condition of the fragile grass, promptly replacing problem areas that had dried out or been broken off by the wind with fresh bundles. Traditional grass shelters have proven their incredible effectiveness and absolute superiority in the extreme conditions of the arid southwestern region. Their ingenious design remains an unrivaled benchmark for ecological construction, requiring neither industrial technologies nor enormous, unwarranted financial expenditures. A deep understanding of the physics of thermodynamic processes allowed indigenous peoples to thrive where modern technologies suffer crushing defeat. The acoustic properties of traditional plant-based, airy shelters played a completely unexpected, yet critically important role in their dangerous daily lives. In harsh conditions of constant danger, the ability to hear the approach of an enemy or an uninvited guest in time saved entire large families. The dome-shaped, curved structure acted as a huge natural resonator, capable of perfectly capturing and concentrating faint external sounds. The walls, made of interwoven sturdy branches and dry grass, despite their thickness, allowed low-frequency, subtle vibrations from the ground to pass through easily. This allowed the alert inhabitants of the shelter to literally sense heavy, approaching footsteps from a considerable distance away from their hidden camp. The dwelling reliably served as a kind of early warning radar, built directly into the wooden architectural structure itself. The ability to distinguish the slightest changes in the surrounding soundscape was continuously honed from the earliest childhood. People living in complete symbiosis and harmony with nature could interpret distant sounds as easily as we read text. The faint rustle of crumbling stone or the crack of a dry, fallen branch could tell them an entire story about what was happening far away. The vegetation did not completely isolate them from the world, but served as a filter, allowing only the most important information to pass through. This remarkable, enduring connection between architecture, acoustics, and human sensory acuity continues to amaze scientists to this day. The dwelling served as a natural, logical extension of its inhabitants' senses, significantly expanding their ability to monitor their territory. The effect of rain on the dome's acoustics also deserves special attention in the context of a comprehensive study of these unique structures. The occasional raindrops falling on dry, stiff grass created a soft, pleasant rustling sound, completely unlike a drum roll. The water flowed smoothly down the numerous layers of vegetation, without causing loud, sharp, frightening, or irritating impacts. This natural white noise had a wonderfully soothing effect, helping the inhabitants relax and fall into a deep, peaceful sleep during inclement weather. Inside, the shelter remained completely dry, and the acoustic background resembled the soft whisper of an endless, windswept plain. Nature itself took pleasure in composing a lullaby, skillfully using the architecture of the dwelling as its primary, massive musical instrument. Studying the acoustic properties of traditional ancient shelters reveals yet another vast, unexplored layer of engineering genius from the distant past. This valuable knowledge can be successfully applied in the intelligent design of modern eco-friendly buildings and open-air concert venues. Applying the principles of sound diffusion and absorption through natural, textured materials allows for the creation of highly comfortable spaces without harming the environment. The architecture of indigenous peoples convincingly demonstrates that true functionality is always multifaceted and invariably takes into account all aspects of human sensory perception. Their domes were not merely a simple shelter from the sun, but also highly complex, acoustically perfect devices essential for survival. Such a level of integration with the surrounding natural environment remains an unattainable, yet coveted ideal for many ambitious modern urban planners. The fire resistance and overall fire safety of dried grass domes seem impossible, given the dryness of their highly flammable building materials. Any accidental spark could instantly turn a dwelling made of dry grass into a gigantic, blazing, and utterly deadly bonfire. However, ancient engineers developed a strict set of vital rules and ingenious architectural solutions to minimize the risk of catastrophic ignition. Lighting a fire inside the dome was permitted only in exceptional cases and strictly within a specially prepared central stone recess. This deep recess was lined with a thick layer of non-flammable wet clay or massive flat stones, which reliably isolated the flames from the floor. Strict and impeccable adherence to these basic safety measures was a matter of life and certain death for the entire group. The layout of the shelters across the camp's expansive grounds was also always subject to strict unwritten rules, designed to prevent massive, destructive fires. Dwellings were never placed right next to one another. A wide, absolutely safe buffer zone was always maintained between them. This open space simply prevented wildfire from spreading to neighboring domes in the event of strong, gusty desert winds. The ground between the circular structures was carefully and methodically cleared of tumbleweeds, creating reliable, safe fire breaks. This settlement layout demonstrates a phenomenally high level of understanding of the basic principles of collective safety and precise urban planning. The camp always constituted a highly organized structure, capable of withstanding natural disasters with minimal losses to the group. The use of smoldering hot coals, instead of an open, bright flame, was the primary safety practice for heating dwellings at night. Before going to sleep, the coals were carefully transferred from a large, powerful outdoor fire to a specially prepared pit inside the dome. They provided a very even, pleasant, gentle heat, posing absolutely no risk of sparks or igniting the shelter's dry walls. This method was incredibly energy efficient and brilliantly conserved scarce firewood, which had been gathered through hard manual labor. The earthen floor around the pit of hot coals stored precious heat, warming the sleepers throughout the long, freezing hours. The technique of slow, safe smoldering became a true pinnacle of the art of fire management in enclosed, dry wood and grass structures. Indigenous peoples' relationship with fire has always been imbued with deep respect and a sacred, mystical meaning. Fire was considered a living entity that required careful and cautious handling within the thin walls of a fragile dwelling. This philosophical perception shaped a strict domestic culture that ruled out carelessness or dangerous games with flames. From a very early age, all members of the community strictly observed the rules for building fires and the methods for extinguishing them. Safety became not merely a set of dry rules, but part of each person's worldview and natural everyday behavior. Harmony with this destructive force was achieved through an understanding of its nature and the creation of appropriate, strict architectural frameworks. When constructing shelters in regions with consistently high thunderstorm activity, additional prudent precautions were taken. They made a point of never placing domes under solitary, spreading trees, which attract powerful electrical discharges from bright lightning bolts. The structure's rounded, streamlined shape, devoid of sharp or protruding high corners, also significantly reduced the risk of a direct, fatal lightning strike. This comprehensive, well-thought-out approach to fire safety makes these ancient, fragile structures even more unique masterpieces. The combination of precise aerodynamics, the right choice of non-combustible materials, and strict discipline ensured reliable protection against the merciless forces of nature. This invaluable experience proves that a building's safety depends not on the non-combustibility of its walls, but on competent, systematic, and comprehensive design. Modern engineers can draw a wealth of useful ideas by carefully analyzing these ingeniously simple and effective solutions from the distant past. Traditional dwellings represented a perfect balance between the use of natural, renewable resources and control over their power. The wisdom of indigenous peoples brilliantly enabled them to tame the dangerous fire, turning it into a faithful ally within a dry, grass-covered capsule. The legacy of the indigenous people's architectural genius lives on and continues to deeply inspire modern engineers around the world. These streamlined thatched domes, once mistakenly regarded as symbols of primitiveness, are now recognized as unsurpassed masterpieces of ecological passive construction. They brilliantly demonstrate the ideal, sustainable balance between form, function, and absolute, sincere respect for the harsh surrounding environment. A deep study of the principles of thermodynamics embedded in these structures opens up entirely new avenues for creating energy-efficient, comfortable buildings of the future. We are beginning to clearly understand that true technological progress lies not in increasing capacity, but in harmony with nature. The invaluable experience of survival in the wilderness holds the most important keys to solving the problems of today's complex urban planning crisis. The mobility and incredible flexibility of traditional plant-based shelters also present enormous scientific interest for designers of temporary functional structures. The ability to very quickly erect an incredibly reliable shelter from simple, readily available materials is invaluable when dealing with the aftermath of powerful natural disasters. The development of modern, ergonomic tents for rescue workers is increasingly and confidently drawing on the principles of ancient dome structures, both rigid and lightweight. The very idea of creating a highly durable, elastic frame, covered with a breathable, multi-layered tarp, has its origins precisely in these wastelands. The skillful combination of time-tested, traditional forms with the latest synthetic nanomaterials yields absolutely stunning and fantastic results. The past and a bold future merge, giving rise to ideal, fail-safe tools for survival in the extreme conditions of our planet. The durability and immutability of the physical principles embedded in the design prove their absolute validity and the universality of their wide-ranging applications. Any material can rot and inevitably decay, but the fundamental laws of aerodynamics remain unchanged for billions of years. The true genius of ancient engineers lay in their exceptional ability to comprehend these laws and harness them for their noble purposes. They created a unique algorithm for ideal construction that works flawlessly without fail, regardless of advances in industrial technology. This algorithm has become their most important cultural legacy, outliving many of its creators and surviving to the present day. We simply must meticulously study this priceless gift in order to make our own architecture more perfect and as rational as possible. The indigenous people's informal educational system, which has allowed this knowledge to be carefully preserved over millennia, also inspires sincere admiration. The precise transmission of the most complex and unique engineering concepts, without the use of writing, required incredible pedagogical mastery on the part of the elders. Learning took place exclusively through hands-on participation in the creative process, where each student grasped the laws of physics through grueling, hard physical labor. This system fostered a profound intuitive understanding of the nature of things, something utterly unattainable through the rote memorization of dry and tedious theoretical texts. Modern higher engineering education could be immensely enriched by adopting this effective method of practical, conscious immersion in hard work. Knowledge gained through one's own sweat and calluses becomes part of a person, rather than merely forgotten information on a hard drive. Preserving the bright memory of these technologies is extremely important for honoring the rich history of humanity's indomitable engineering genius. For far too long, the achievements of indigenous peoples have been downplayed or deliberately ignored by conservative academic science due to foolish prejudices. Today, we are literally rediscovering the greatness of these courageous people, recognizing their outstanding and undeniable contribution to global architectural culture. Their thatched domes are not primitive structures, but highly precise and complex tools for managing harsh, local, and unpredictable microclimates. Recognizing their undeniable achievements restores an important historical justice and greatly enriches our shared treasure trove of useful human knowledge. We must always treat this fragile heritage with the same respect with which they treated the mighty forces of nature. Exploring how these shelters brilliantly withstood the heat better than tents forever changes our entrenched perception of progress. True cutting-edge technology is not just about microchips. It is, above all, a profound understanding of the immutable laws of the vast world around us. The desert's brilliant engineers mastered this rare understanding to absolute perfection, creating masterpieces from simple, readily available, and humble components. Their experience continually teaches us immense attentiveness, rationality, and respect for natural forces that surpass our own. This is the greatest story of the unconditional triumph of the human mind over the elements, written in the language of intertwined branches and weathered stone. The priceless legacy of these nameless geniuses lives on, reminding us of the truth that the most elegant and sound solutions are always surprisingly simple.